Hello, everyone, and welcome to Art Fennell Reports. I'm Art Fennell. You know, most mothers will tell you that there are few things that can compare to the experience of childbirth, from the actual moment of finding out that you're expecting to the evolution that takes place within the body, the kicks, the movements, obviously the growth of the child, and then obviously the joy of the actual birth experience. That is the joy of life. But you know, sadly, for many women, they will never get to experience that because they are not able to have children. The question is, what are their options? Well, one of them is the world of surrogacy. We're going to talk about that today. Surrogacy is a procedure by which a woman carries another woman's fertilized egg to term. Now, this is still very controversial here in our country, so much so, in fact, that there have been regulations in place to monitor anyone who undergoes the process. But in India, surrogacy is a big business. A report from the Los Angeles Times says that there were roughly 1,500 surrogacy births for domestic and overseas couples in 2010, representing a 50% increase, however, in 2 years' time. My guest today knows about surrogacy in India. Crystal Travis runs a consulting service for clients called World of Surrogacy. Crystal and her husband are the proud parents of 3 children who were all born in India through surrogacy. Her story was told by the BBC in 2010 before the birth of her twins. Here's an excerpt from that report.
Someone has a belly a little larger.
Crystal and Naina have little in common, but share a special bond.
Talk, 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 talk.
Naina is pregnant with Crystal's twins. It's the second time the Indian woman has lent her womb to the American.
I've had a positive experience, and that's why I'm using Naina for the second time. And because the process went smoothly for me, I ended up starting a business because of that, to help to facilitate other couples so that they could have a smooth transition.
Surrogacy in India is a business, a multi-million-dollar one. Naina earned $5,000 for the first birth, a sum worth years of hard work.
It was initially difficult to give up the child. One tends to get attached. But I know I have given a word to her, and also I'm getting paid for it.
Getting paid for it. Crystal Travis is here to share her story. Crystal, thank you so much for being here. You know, what was interesting in that report that we just heard was a term that I hadn't really heard, and that is lending the womb for payment. And the lady says, I'm getting paid for this, lending the womb. I want to talk about all of that, and particularly what's happening in India. Let's start, though, with your story. When did you come to terms with the fact that surrogacy may be the right thing for you and your family?
Well, once we decided that we needed help to obtain a family, we decided to use an IVF clinic where we live. And we started that whole protocol. And when I was told that I needed to use an egg donor because my eggs were pretty much had aged out, I decided, since I have to use an egg donor and I would need more medical intervention, it would be best if I used the gestational carrier.
And right there, how big of a deal was that? That certainly couldn't have been just a quick decision that you said, okay, well, we'll just do this.
Well, no, I thought about it for a while, but the protocol that this clinic wanted to put me on, I wasn't willing to go that far. I already had surgery. I didn't want more surgery. And I had a couple of other health issues, and I just felt like it wasn't in my best interest at that point for me to carry. And I had heard a little bit about surrogacy, so I started to do a little bit of research to find out the information that I could. And then when I spoke to the clinic, letting them know that I wanted a gestational carrier, they wanted me to work within their guidelines.
So there wasn't any pushback on that. They were in compliance with you on that and said, yes, well, here are some options. Just work within our guidelines to make it so.
Right. They wanted me to work within their guidelines, but I felt like if I were going to pay $125,000 that I should make that decision, that I shouldn't have to have more medical intervention so that they could give me the answer.
And would they have funneled that money? Does the $125,000, would that have gone to the clinic and then they find and research and obtain a donor or a person for you?
Well, some of that would have gone to the IVF clinic. A part of that would have gone to the attorney that they have on staff. But because I decided I wasn't going to go that route, that's why I got involved with India, because there wasn't regulation.
Yeah, and you did this on your own.
Yes, we did it on our own.
You did this on your own, and so how do you get from researching on the internet to finding yourself in India?
Well, when I had heard about surrogacy in India, I think like on the radio or TV, I couldn't remember where I had heard about it. So I decided back in 2007, I'm just going to Google and just see what I can find. I think it was the end of 2007.
Simple as that, just a Google search.
It was a Google search, and then I found Dr. Naina Patel, and I decided I'm just going to send an email and just see what happens.
Yeah. And how many people did you screen? Or was it not like that? It was like, this is the person that's available and is willing to do it for you. This is the person.
That's basically what I did. That was a doctor whose name came up. There weren't any blogs at that time. It was pretty quiet. It didn't really start to blow up, as you say, until Oprah Winfrey got involved and did a show on actually the doctor that I used. And then she replied back to us, and I wasn't sure still if it was legit, and then we said to her, well, we're going to get on a plane in 2 weeks and fly to India anyway.
It's a huge investment, almost a gamble, because like you say, there's so many scams out there. You don't know if this is really legit. You don't know what's going to happen when you get to India. This obviously strange territory for you, but you take this leap of faith anyway and say, we're going to play this through. Once you get there, once you're on the ground, was it simple at that point? Does this become a very simple and easy story that goes through?
It's not necessarily a very simple and easy story. Once we arrived to India, it was the first time that Colin and I had been to India. So when we flew into India, we landed in Mumbai, but we stayed at a very nice place that was gated. But the next morning when we got up and we caught a plane to Gujarat, we understood the realities of what was happening around us, and I started to second guess myself, wondering what have I done here.
This is a very depressed economy over there. People obviously don't have the means that we have here in America, the luxuries.
Right. So, by the time we got to the clinic and we met Dr. Patel and we met the egg donor and the surrogate, things seemed to fall, they fell into place, but, in our first attempt, we had a negative.
Right. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
The egg donor and the surrogate, are they, well, obviously not the surrogate, but the egg donor, is the egg donor anonymous to you, or was this someone that you put in the data? How does that work? Because I'm sure people are wondering, how in the world do you dial this up that this is what we want?
Right. Well, they're usually anonymous egg donors, but usually you'll send a picture of yourself, or you'll tell the doctor exactly what it is that you want in that particular egg donor, and she will forward a picture to you. And supposedly that will be the egg donor that you will have should you need an egg donor. We needed an egg donor. We had my husband's sperm there. And then we were able to get a list of surrogates that were available. And then we met the surrogate and the surrogate's family.
How many screenings of the surrogates did you go through?
We, you know what, the first surrogate who didn't, she miscarried. So then we had another.
That had to be very disappointing.
It was. And then we met the second surrogate, and she became pregnant with our son, Mark.
And when you met her, what were you thinking? Did you look this person over, up and down, round and about, in 8 ways to Sunday, thinking, is this the person that I want to be my surrogate?
Well, I was actually thrilled that because this surrogate that we had, she is a nurse in her own country. So that was a bonus because
you knew she'd take good care.
Yeah, so that was a big bonus. The other thing is that so many of the women are so small that you begin to wonder, because most Americans are a lot larger, and you're like, oh, I don't know if you'll be able to carry our babies, because most of the surrogates are 100 pounds or 110 pounds.
Yeah. So you have your first child. And well, you just mentioned the name
Mark.
Mark. We have a picture of your children that we're going to be putting up here. Beautiful kids, healthy,
Thank you.
out on the swing with his coat on here. And what are the other children's names?
Alec and Elle, the twins.
The twins.
Yeah.
So
Mark
that was
also a twin, by the way. But lots of times when you do IVF, one of the twins will expire early in gestation.
So this was an emotional roller coaster for you. It was not a simple procedure because, as you say, a twin that expired in gestation, then the first surrogate miscarried. And so at any point did you start to think, this is not quite working out the way that I had planned or hoped that it would?
Well, you know what? Early on we did. I mean, I remember before we even went to pick Mark up, and people would always ask, are you excited? Are you whatever? There's an emotional disconnect when you have a surrogate in India, obviously.
Yeah, and you weren't there then for childbirth.
We were for Mark, but we weren't for the twins.
Why not?
I didn't want to for the twins because I knew that I wanted to get in and out of India early. So I felt like if the twins were already born, then that would give them a few days. So that when I arrived in India, I would be able to leave like 5 or 6 days later, because I wanted to get back home, get them to a pediatrician here.
Now, how do I put this in a delicate way? Because I certainly don't want to be offensive here. But there may be some who are watching who may say that almost sounds like takeout service. That you know, I put in an order, and I knew the order wouldn't be ready until a certain time, and then when I got there, the order was ready, I picked it up, and I left. So there was absolutely no attachment for you, you're saying, the second time around with the twins.
Well, you know, it's hard. It's hard because I didn't carry. There was, you know, eventually there was an attachment. When you're so far removed from the process, at least for me, it's very difficult to be attached to a woman who doesn't speak the language.
Sure.
You can say hello on the telephone.
Yeah.
But by the time people get to this process, whether it's me or other intended parents, you've gone down the road of foster care classes, adoption. You've been there, you've done it. By the time most people get to surrogacy in India, it's your last option.
Okay, stay right there. We're going to take a break here. When I come back, I want to talk more about this, particularly the emotional aspect. I really want to go there with you and get more into that. And I also want to talk about some of the popularity that we're starting to see now in the world of surrogacy. A lot of people are doing it, people you may not even think of.